1403. In the mountains of Switzerland, a small group of peasants and shepherds faced the most powerful army in Europe, the Holy Roman Empire. They were barely 400 men against thousands of trained soldiers, without armor, without professional armies, only with agricultural tools and an unbreakable will. This is the incredible story of the smallest army that defeated an empire. To understand how it happened, we must go back in time. In the early 15th century, the Holy Roman Empire controlled vast territories, from Germany to Italy, and ruled with an iron fist. It demanded exorbitant taxes and expected absolute obedience from the small states under its dominion. In a small mountainous corner of Switzerland, the Canton of Appenzell, things were different. This territory was made up of communities of peasants and shepherds, people accustomed to the harshness of life in the mountains. They were not warriors, but they had something unique, a deep love for their freedom. When the empire tried to impose higher taxes and control their trade, the inhabitants of Appenzell said no, and that no triggered a conflict that would change history. But how could a small canton resist such a large empire? This is where strategy comes into play. The Swiss knew they could not confront the imperial army in open field. So they took advantage of what they did have, the mountains. They decided to set an ambush in a place called Stoss Pass, a narrow mountain pass perfect for trapping the enemy. The weeks leading up to the battle were frantic. The peasants improvised weapons, spears made from farming tools, slings to throw stones, and bows made from local wood. Every man, young or old, knew that their only option was to fight with everything they had. Finally, the day arrived. The imperial army, confident in its superiority, began to advance through the pass. They were hundreds of soldiers armed with swords, spears, and shining armor. From the heights, the Swiss watched them, ready to launch their attack. And then they did. From the top of the mountains, stones and arrows began to rain down on the imperial army. It was total chaos. The soldiers, trapped in the narrow pass, could not maneuver. Their formation broke and confusion took over. The peasants seized the moment. With war cries, they descended from the heights, attacking with everything they had. Though they were few, they fought with a ferocity that surprised the Imperials. Every blow, every step, was for their freedom and for their land. The confrontation lasted for hours. The Imperial soldiers, who had arrived confident, found themselves overwhelmed by the Swiss knowledge of the terrain and their unbreakable determination. Finally, the Imperial army began to retreat. What had started as an invasion ended in a humiliating defeat. When the dust settled, the Swiss had achieved the impossible. They had defeated an empire. But their victory was not just military. It was a symbol of what can be achieved with ingenuity, courage, and unity. The Battle of Stoss Pass secured the independence of Appenzell and sent a clear message to all of Europe. Never underestimate a people determined to be free. This triumph not only marked a chapter in the history of Switzerland, but left a legacy that still resonates today. The Swiss demonstrated that the size of an army is not everything. Strategy, teamwork, and a deep love for what you defend can overcome any obstacle. The Canton of Appenzell remembers this feat with pride. To this day, its mountains are not just a landscape, but a silent testament to the bravery of its inhabitants. It is a story that reminds us that even the smallest can challenge giants if they have the courage to do so. And you, what would you do if your land and your freedom were in danger? Would you have the courage to face a much larger enemy? Leave us your opinion in the comments. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to share it with someone who loves discovering these gems of the past. Because this is not just a story of war, but an eternal lesson of resilience and hope.